Hello again. Today we're talking about data provenance. I think that many of us have heard the term provenance before, but not necessarily in the context of healthcare data or interoperability. I think both Michael and I really only started picking up on the term and its exact meaning and importance in healthcare IT last year. So before we talk about its relevance and importance to interoperability, let's start with the definition. Michael, why don't you take that?
Sure, thanks, Reed. Yes, so data provenance sounds French, or provenance, and it is. The origin is from the French word provenir, which essentially means the origin and chronology of ownership, custody, or location of a historic object. When we apply that to data, or more specifically healthcare data, it describes the concept and the related practices that ensure not only the origin and chain of custody of the data is assured, but also the integrity of the data itself. In other words, wherever a data element is used, the person or system using it can be assured that the data element came from the source that it is attributed to, but also that it has not been altered in content or context.
Okay, so can you elaborate on the content versus content or context? I know both are very important aspects.
They are, yes. So content refers to whatever is the actual value of an element. Let's take the example of a systolic blood pressure. Let's say the systolic blood pressure has a value of 120. So with provenance in place, we can assume that if anybody receives that value, they can be assured that the source system had a value of 120 as well. When we talk about context, we talk about the other data elements around that data as well as metadata. And in that example, what that would be is, say, that we received the right value of that blood pressure, but for example, along the way, the member ID that that blood pressure came with was mixed up, then it obviously becomes useless.
Well, yeah, and potentially even worse.
Yes.
So it's pretty obvious that provenance is key to many, if not all, interoperability use cases. In many cases, until now at least, I suppose we have simply assumed that the concepts of provenance have not been violated, which is clearly not a good assumption. Now, I know that there is one use case where the concept of provenance, even if it's not called that, has been very important. And I'm talking about HEDIS supplemental data and the audit process that's associated with that. Now, we know that health plans around the country are very hungry to use more and more supplemental data, but there are significant pains that are associated with it in the audit process. So for each of the data sources, each data type, for every hop that data goes through, having that detailed documentation is key, and then it also is going to require a thorough audit. So Michael, are the IT efforts to automate data provenance going to make the audit of supplemental data less painful, or maybe even eliminate that need completely?
Yes. So, and by the way, the audit process that you're talking about for HEDIS supplemental is really the closest we're currently able to get to something like data provenance, but obviously in a sort of manual fashion. So very important, absent real automated data provenance. But yes, the answer is yes. And we have good reason to assume that that's the case, if we get a standardized data provenance approach and solution in place, that we will be able to eliminate or at least greatly reduce that pain. So with that in place, we will accomplish really two things for any data, set of data or data elements. One, we can be confident that the data has integrity, and B, that we have an automated way of actually assuring or checking that the provenance of that data. So some encouraging things are happening again at the ONC, which obviously is sort of the patron saint of everything interoperability, very important work they do. So last year, for example, they had an ideation challenge around data provenance, and there were some very encouraging vendor submissions with interesting solutions or approaches to solutions. Furthermore, the ONC announced this year at the Interoperability Summit that the data elements that are required to assure provenance are one of the top 3 priorities in the US CDI, which is basically the data standard that says here are the minimum required fields for a lot of the use cases that are regulated by the federal government and interoperability.
Okay, so I think we've covered the key aspects of data provenance, and if this was new to you, I hope it was very informative, at least on the surface level with the use case we provided. And I hope everyone gets a better understanding and appreciation for this from this session. So that's it for today, and we will see you next time.